Let's go! And the LSU passing offense get going versus a Tennessee passing defense that, quite frankly, isn't that good. Right off the jump here, I'm loving the communication. Malik's like, look, I got press man over here. This guy could be blitzing coming off the edge. So what we're going to talk about is the LSU passing game and a few adjustments I would make going into the Tennessee matchup this weekend, okay? Now, we have obviously broken down this Auburn game in many different facets, and I'm going to be honest, if you were already a member of the PHL Patreon, you already know what the main topic we're going to talk about today actually is, and it's a major issue for the Mike DENBROCK offense.
And it starts with putting together a comprehensive plan that can be repeated in the game. And the guy that has his hands on the ball is the quarterback. And he's going to get most of the notoriety when we do well, and he's going to get a lot of the blame when it doesn't go well. So the quarterback is part of this. The wide receivers have got to be better at attention to detail. Their routes have to be better. We've got to throw it better and catch it better. There were probably 5 or 6, and you probably can all remember them, where there needed to be a little bit better of a throw and a little bit better of a catch. And so that also goes to play calling. We've got to be able to look at, are these the plays that we can repeat? And are we doing too much? I think we're looking at it in all of those areas, because this is not going to work. We can't throw for 85 yards with the talent that we have and expect to beat the top 10 teams in the country.
Bam! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. So, you probably heard that Brian Kelly quote. You definitely did if you are subscribed to our free PHL podcast, which is a little bit different than what we do here. And it's not so much what Brian Kelly said, it was how he said that. There was a lot of ums because this LSU offense is so clunky, and there's so many different pieces in that Auburn game that, quite frankly, didn't play well. So what I think LSU needs to do is, well, simplify what they do. As Anthony Richardson, a quarterback who, as many of you know, is uber talented, he was the worst SEC quarterback, though, leading into this Tennessee game with 2 back-to-back QBR performances under 20, which is beyond abysmal. And he went off not only through the air, but on the ground. And the latter is something we all know JAYDEN Daniels can do at an extremely high level. But can LSU actually get the passing attack going? The good news is that Tennessee's pass defense isn't great. So they get this early bye week, and they've only played 2 Power 5 teams up to this point. And that, of course, was Florida and earlier this year versus Pitt. And in the Pitt game, they were down to their backup quarterback after Keaton Slovis went out with injury. Okay? Now, what I'm going to show you here in just a second is a really good chart by a Florida blogger by the name of J. Bud Davis, a very talented analytics account. As you see Anthony Richardson complete a pass outside the numbers to a check down here. But let's go ahead and fling it up, and bam, you're looking at it right now. It does look very complicated, but the main thing here is Tennessee has a pink dot, and judging by the legend of this chart, the pink dot represents a bad passing defense. But not only are they bad, they play a lot of man coverage, and they also play a lot of middle of the field closed coverage. So we're not going to get too deep into what that actually means, because I try not to get too technical, but just to lay it out simply, this should be a defense, if you have great weapons on the outside, that you slaughter. So this is a matchup, especially considering Tennessee lost one of their best defensive backs out for the season. Now, they are getting healthier with another DB potentially coming back, but truth be told, this secondary is very beatable. And, once again, we talked about this in our Patreon breakdown, But this is one thing that's interesting is I've seen Tennessee's tackling get a little sloppy as well. So that is something else to keep in mind. And yeah, their run defense numbers look good, but you can beat them on the ground as well. However, the focus on today's video is the passing attack, okay? Now, as many of you know, Florida went on to score a touchdown on this drive, but did you notice that there were one thing that all three of these passes in a 2-minute drill with no timeouts left had in common, okay? Now, if you don't know what all three of those had in common, well, I'll go ahead and tell you right now. They all featured something called a play-action fake. Now, most of you probably know what a play-action fake is. Simply put, for those that aren't aware of what a play-action fake is, it's simply put a fake handoff to the running back that is actually a pass, just to make sure we're all on the same level, okay? So, why is the play-action fake very important? Well, it's important for two different reasons. Bam! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. So, if you love football, okay, it's about to get really, really intense. Now, we're going to get to LSU in just a second. It's going to be kind of alarming, but it's important to incorporate the film and the data, and that's what we try to do here at PHL. Now, the unfortunate truth about that is sometimes my videos do get demonetized, so if you can't drop a Venmo or a Cash App, that would obviously help out. Shout out to Titus. He actually did that. I really do appreciate it. Now, let's talk about play-action fakes. You're looking at some really good data right here, written by Yahya Hassan. And him and J. Bud Davis are two excellent analytic accounts that actually cover the Florida Gators really closely, okay? And what Yahya decided to do here with StatsBomb data is rip the play-action versus non-play-action snaps for Anthony Richardson. There have been studies done on this more in the NFL level than in the college level that show that play-action fakes are effective even without a good running game. So those two things, they can be mutually exclusive, right? You don't need to run the football all that effectively for play-action fakes to work, which is exactly what happened in this Florida game. Their really talented running back room couldn't really get going versus Tennessee, but as you'll see here, the play-action fakes still worked. In a 2-minute drive with Florida down by 10 with no timeouts left, they were still able to drive the football down the field and use play-action fakes, and they still worked. As you see with the first snap, the linebacker did bite up, and it created extra space for the ball to be completed to Justin Shorter. So now I want you to take a look at the actual splits between play-action passes and non-play-action passes versus that Tennessee defense. And as you'll see, despite 4 fewer play-action attempts, they completed more passes, obviously for a higher percentage. They doubled the amount of yards. They tripled the amount of yards per attempt, 10 more yards per completion, 5 more average depth of target yards, which includes how deep the ball traveled through the air, 10 more total EPA, and double the amount of EPA per play. That is a staggering difference. So, play action, as you can see, was Anthony Richardson's best friend. In fact, Pitt had a lot of success with play action with 2 different quarterbacks. If you go look at the ESPN highlight, half of the plays that succeeded were off of play action fakes as well. So we know it has worked against Tennessee. The problem is LSU is last in the SEC, or should I say Jayden Daniels, when he's in at quarterback, is last in the SEC when it comes to play action percentage. And that is a Mike DENBROCK problem. He is the one that determines if a play action fake is going to happen or not, because a quarterback doesn't just decide to play action fake or not. Now, truth be told, that was not a well-done play-action fake right there by Jayden Daniels and Noah Cain. There wasn't really that good of a sell job to cause those linebackers to bite right there. But truth be told, you should still do it because it does simplify things. It does give the defense something else for them to worry about. And being last in the SEC when it comes to play-action percentage, what I would do is go look at SEC StatCat's website. Once again, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. He is the best SEC blog on the planet. What he does is truly unprecedented, okay? What's even crazier, and what you could do is go year by year on his site back to 2018, and you will see that play action percentage oftentimes coincides with better offenses, which leads us into this very next play, which was something called an RPO, which is called, once again, a run pass option. Now, you know what's interesting about RPOs? Number one, on this RPO to Malik Nabers on the very next play, this was the longest pass for LSU to a wide receiver in the entire game. It went for 17 freaking yards. It was the only double-digit yarded completed pass to a wide receiver in the entire game. And when you look at play action percentage and then compare it to RPO percentage, JAYDEN Daniels is tied for the fourth lowest when it comes to RPO percentage. So LSU has not RPO'd all that much, and they've also not done play action fakes. Why? I don't know. It comes down to the philosophy of not only Mike DENBROCK, but also Brian Kelly, right? Brian Kelly is not a defensive coach. He's an offensive coach, and DENBROCK was his hire. Now, if there was only some guy out there or group of guys out there that know infinitely more about football than I do, that for some random reason decided to do a very long rant about the effectiveness of play action. If there was only a few people, and maybe these people have ties to LSU. Oh yeah, they do. I want you to listen to this from someone that I think a lot of you know and love.
First of all, play action is available, and it's the toughest thing to defend. And as a defensive lineman, you have more of your playbook at your disposal under center than you do in the shotgun.
Sure. Bam! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. So that was obviously the great Swagoo sitting there with another LSU great, Ryan Clark. And ironically, Dan Orlovsky, who was asking Swagoo the initial question about play action fakes, is calling the LSU versus Tennessee game. And I wanted to shout him out. I thought this was really freaking cool. He wanted to speak to some student media leading into the game. Access to that, I was lucky enough to have some people do that for me when I was in student media, and that does wonders for your confidence. I doubt Dan Orlovsky watches this, but man, not only did he get some company with the great Jimmy Garoppolo stepping out of the back of the end zone, but doing something like that, I mean, truth be told, it's just really freaking cool. Now, what was very interesting was that conversation was more so about NFL teams running more plays from under center. Now, should LSU do that? Probably not. That would be a pretty drastic shift for pretty much any SEC team to do that. And maybe it's something you consider, a little bit more of an old school look. Get out in maybe some more 12 personnel formations. More on that in just a second. But I wouldn't say LSU should go under center. But I do have a suggestion. What if there was a way that we could meet in the middle? If we could put together shotgun snaps and under center snaps. And I do think there is a solution, and it is something called pistol formation, okay? Now, what I will say about pistol formation is, you look at it right here, this is when the running back is directly behind the quarterback. Now, I am sharing you a conversation that I had with a pretty high-level play caller, and he loves pistol formation other than the fact that it's a little bit harder to RPO out of it. And I won't get into as to why, but still. Now, why do I love pistol? Well, out of pistol, it's a little bit harder if the ball were to be handed off to the running back to know if he was going to go left or right, okay? In theory, it is essentially an under center snap with the running back directly behind you, whereas in, more of a shotgun situation, if you hand the football off, more than likely he is running to the right. But out of pistol, it's just one little extra nugget of misdirection when it comes to this type of offense, okay? So you get the pistol snap, and, well, when you go out of pistol and you do play action, you complete the longest pass of the year for JAYDEN Daniels through the air to Chris Hilton. And as we've broken down before, not only on Patreon, but just in film studies, LSU must get some version of a vertical passing game to work. Now, I'm going to give you a little extra nugget here. And this play actually shows a lot of different things I would do if I were LSU. And ironically, this was a play that went for a sack, but this was by far, and it's not even close, my favorite play call Billy Napier had in this game. And truth be told, I know there's a lot of people here that don't want to give Napier credit because, we already got this LSU Florida thing and the Napier connection, whatever. Billy called a masterful game versus Tennessee. Now, there were some things I would have done differently, but he did a lot of smart things. And you see that this was actually a play that ended up being a sack out of pistol, but let's actually take a look at this from a different angle, and I'm going to discuss actually a few things I think LSU needs to adjust. Now, according to SEC StatCat, LSU actually upped their usage of pre-snap motion versus Auburn. The issue for me, though, was a lot of times the motion player, and what pre-snap motion is essentially what the word actually says. It's just people motioning before the snap. So here, Florida has one of their receivers doing the motion. Even though LSU does a lot of pre-snap motion, which I love, okay? Obviously, to me, Ole Miss does a lot of pre-snap motion. Texas, under Steve Sarkisian, knows the Alabama 2020 offense was all about pre-snap motion. And the 2019 pre-snap motion, LSU offense, they did a lot of pre-snap motion to help Joe Burrow get the defense declared, and that's why I love pre-snap motion. The issue for me, though, is LSU's pre-snap motion player oftentimes has been Mason Taylor or a running back. I like it when my pre-snap motion player and they're not a wide receiver, just because I think it stresses out the defense more, and they're just faster players. So we get a pre-snap motion player right here, and this is a fake orbit motion. So what an orbit motion is when a player pre-snap motions and he goes around the back, of a player. But we get a fake pre-snap motion, or a fake orbit motion, and 3 actually goes out to the right. Now, you notice the formation, a lot like what you saw a minute ago with LSU. They are in pistol with actually 2 tight ends to the right, okay? Now, you get the pistol play action fake here, and notice what happens, okay? AR sells his play action fake well, and it holds 1, 2, but more importantly, it brings the safety into the box. Now, guess what happens? 1 is in no man's land. He has no idea what's happening, and look at all the space it generated, okay? Now, you wouldn't have been able to see this from the initial angle, but their best receiver, the guy that tore Florida up all game, Justin Shorter, you'll see, breaks away. Okay, AR-15 sees it, and the ball, could he have done a better job in this pocket? It did seem a little sloppy here. Step up in this pocket. Drew Brees was really good at that. And, it just took a while for this ball to be released, and it was late. This is something JAYDEN Daniels is going to have to work on, right? Stepping up and releasing the football earlier and quicker. But that was right there, as you could see, a tutty, okay? This DB, that's separation, okay? You lead him, he's even having time to put his towel back in. You lead him, that's a touchdown to make it a one-possession game. Now, once again, that was very similar to the Chris Hilton play. Obviously, some things were a little bit different. But you see, and here's another chart here from our guy Yaya from earlier. Pre-snap motion was a lot more productive for Florida versus Tennessee as well. And I also liked some of the runs that they did out of pistol. And this one actually would have worked. The linebacker, the guard missed the block at the second level, and the linebacker was able to make this play. But Florida did have some success. The little bit of success they had running the football was also out of pistol as well. So, what should LSU's offense do versus Tennessee? Well, the first thing is, obviously, I have focused a lot on the LSU offense this week. I decided to not spend too much time breaking down Hendon Hooker and the Tennessee offense. I don't think we're going to get to do a detailed film breakdown of them because I've been spending so much time looking into what the LSU offense is going to do. So my apologies for that. But I will say this. Tennessee's offense is my favorite offense to watch in college football. I love the Josh Heupel system. But let's focus on the LSU offense here at the end. Now, in the background, this was the play directly after the Chris Hilton throw, and a lot of you watch me regularly. That was Hoss Juke, my favorite play in all of football. And we ran it 3 times. We completed it twice to Jack Besh, and it's a very simple completion out of 5 wide receiver sets, or in other words, empty. Now, of course, if you go empty and there's no running back there, there is theoretically no play action fake, right? So I do think LSU is going to try some empty stuff. Pitt did some empty versus Tennessee, and it did work, but it was very Jekyll and Hyde because we haven't really spent so much time talking about Tennessee's defensive coordinator, Tim Young. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him because I've done a deep breakdown on some of his very exotic blitz packages on Power Hour SEC, my SEC channel. But truth be told, like we mentioned earlier, likes to play man coverage, likes to play a lot of middle of the field close, according to J. Bud Davis. So it's going to be interesting what Tennessee tries to do versus LSU. But just know that Coach Young for Tennessee can obviously dial up some nasty blitzes. So be ready for that. But I do think their defense has some question marks. Now, they are coming off a bye, and yes, they are in a little bit of a look-ahead spot with Alabama coming up, the next week, and that game, of course, being played in Knoxville. But, honestly, they know they got to probably win this game as well. Actually, this is the game that I would focus a little bit more on because if you lose versus Alabama, still the destiny of the 2022 Tennessee Volunteers is going to be in their hands. But they got to beat LSU first. Now, look, there's a lot of different things that LSU can do to potentially work against Tennessee. Florida did have some success running 12 personnel, and that's what LSU's in the background right here. But I don't know how much 12 they're going to run with a tight end room right now that is struggling. I do think Nick Storrs gave them some really good blocks at the end of the game, so that's something to keep an eye out for, and obviously Armani Goodwin won't be in this game. But I do think LSU's going to try and do some empty. But to not get too detailed into different kind of concepts. There's plenty of people that know way more about specific passing concepts, such as smash, which is something LSU ran a lot of versus Mississippi State. I do think LSU just needs to do more play action fakes. It does help out your quarterbacks. And I do think DENBROCK, and this is a hard thing, it's a lot easier said than done to do this, but do more RPOs. Do more stuff that schemes guys open. Because I do think no matter who's guarding you, it's tough to run these plays where, you're relying on a one-on-one matchup just to get open, right? If that makes sense. And look, JAYDEN Daniels as a thrower is limited. It is not what he is known for. It is not his MO, right? So I do think Jaden's going to have some good opportunities to scramble. I did see some instances where Tennessee's pass rushing lanes can get a little scattered. So Jayden should make them pay, especially if they're going to run a lot of man coverage and turn your backs to the line of scrimmage. So this could be a big scrambling game for Jayden. Hey, the last time LSU played in Tennessee in Tiger Stadium, it started with a 80-yard Jordan Jefferson touchdown run, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's a lot of different things that LSU can do, but I do think they need to fake it to the running back and throw the you-know-what ball. I know there's a lot of people out there that say, well, establish a running game, shorten the game, keep the Tennessee offense off the field. They're going to score some. Ultimately, you got to score some points. Do whatever you feel is best for your offense. So I wouldn't get too much into like the ball control kind of thing, but it would be nice to, get a running game going as well. Now, Obviously, we need you to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Thanks again. A lot of sharp people, helping make this video super duper fun. Obviously, the NFL Live crew using some of the audio from them, and then, all the analytics, people out there. It's great. There's a lot of really, really good resources. And once again, check out SEC Snackcat, okay? It is Power Hour LSU Bam! And tonight, we're doing chicken quesadilla, chicken quesadilla night 3. Let's go.